Okay, let's just get this over with. So, The Mummy, or Tom Cruise Runs Around, the movie. Okay. So, this one isn't really a remake, reimagining of the original Boris Karloff Mummy. No, no, it completely lacks the atmosphere of that one. It's more close in style to the 90s Brendan Fraser Mummy, but it lacks the charm, humor, personality. It lacks a lot of things. Now, I wanted to like this movie. I was, when I first heard about it, all set to be all in on this. I mean, the concept of them doing a dark cinematic universe, while I wasn't sure how they'd do well, I was intrigued by. And admittedly, I did see Dracula Untold, which was going to be the first one. I didn't hate it, but I didn't think anything especially likable of it. Then they announced this one, and I thought it was interesting to start with The Mummy, of all of them. I mean, Dracula, Frankenstein are a bit more iconic, but hey, okay, I'm down for The Mummy. Then they released the designs for The Mummy. I was further intrigued. I liked the new look of The Mummy. Hey, Sophia, but I'm going to murder her last name. Sophia Botella was, I thought, looked like a very great Mummy character as Amanette. I was down. I was in. Then came the reviews, and the backlash, and the announcement of the indefinite hold for the rest of the Dark Universe. So I didn't really bother getting around to this one for some time. In fact, the only reason I'm doing it this month is I found a brand new copy for all of $5. Well, so I figured it might as well get around to finally seeing this and see if it was as bad or frustrating as it was rumored to be. Now, the problems I started seeing with it were right off. So, they start off in the perfect place, just where you'd expect them to set a mummy movie, England in the Crusades time. Okay. Sure, maybe okay. Fine, fine. And then we cut from there to present day England. Not exactly what I was expecting for The Mummy, but okay. We're doing a lot of exposition. A little bit about this forgotten princess of Egypt that was completely erased from history. How the guys knew about her, I'm not completely clear on. But okay. They're looking for some things no one knows about. Fine, whatever. Usual secret society malarkey. Then we finally flash back to Egypt. And then we cut to the main plot in Iraq. We're jumping everywhere but Egypt, except in flashbacks. In fact, this movie doesn't go to Egypt at all. We flash back to it, and I will say, not exactly a spoiler, but end of the movie, they're finally riding off to Egypt. But you think a mummy movie would at least involve it a little more, no? No, no, no. Gotta fit in everything else in England, in Iraq. Okay, so. Plotline. Tom Cruise plays Nick, a soldier that's more interested in treasure hunting, so he's our Brendan Fraser for the movie. And he and his buddy have stolen a map and want to find some treasure. Through a series of misadventures, they find a sealed tomb in Iraq, but it's Egyptian. Now, apparently, this is a prison. They state that the Egyptians clearly wanted this person as far removed from Egypt as possible. Okay, I can buy that a little bit. by Nick arranging for the sarcophagus to be raised out of some mercury, of all things. He becomes the chosen one of Amunet, and the mummy's curse begins in full. Through another... Now, his buddy... the other main characters would be his buddy, whose name I've already forgotten. Another, essentially a fellow soldier. And I believe a researcher who I think her name was Jennifer. I could be wrong. And she's the one who he stole the map from and is the actual researcher. So those three set about trying to transport the mummy back to England. So other soldier boy gets bitten by a camel spider, and somehow that kills him. And causes him to, on the plane, go crazy, start attacking, and have to be gunned down. The plane crashes. Then Jennifer is able to parachute away to safety. Nick is in the impact, but he's just fine, because either it's a mummy's curse protecting him, or being Tom Cruise is protecting him. Either is a likely bet here. And from there on, it's the mummy's out. Her goal is to get a dagger, get a gem for the dagger, and turn Tom Cruise into the embodiment of Set, the Egyptian god of death. Tom Cruise is trying to survive because between the mummy trying to stab him and this organization of monster hunters he's now thrust in the midst of is trying to turn the curse back on the mummy and essentially use this to find a way to kill Set. Everyone's trying to kill Tom Cruise. Except for Jennifer, who's now becoming a little disillusioned with her monster hunting agency. Now, this is where things get a little messy. So the Monster Hunter Agency is obviously the main setup for the Dark Universe. You see slip-ins for the Gillmen, slip-ins for vampires. It's run by Dr. Jekyll. Okay. So they do a bit with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but it was so short and pointless that why even include it? You don't go... The main character clearly has no idea what's going on, and you sort of get the impression that it's Jekyll and Hyde. I mean, they name drop him and he does his transformation, but it's so nothing that it's doesn't really add anything and only takes away from the main mummy plot. And with his organization revealed to be willing to just kill Tom Cruise, doesn't put them in a very friendly light. In fact, during this point, the mummy seems to almost care more about him, and the way the actress portrays her is a very sympathetic character. If the mummy hadn't killed a baby in an opening flashback, I'd be on her side. She's the most sympathetic character in the movie. Tom Cruise comes a little close, but he's still kind of a dick through the beginning. So, one of the main problems here is most of the characters are not that likable. Except for the mummy. And if they could have played with that, they could have made the mummy the main character in kind of a twist and gone with it, but no, she's still evil villain, just trying to do her thing. I wanted to like this movie, but I found it very frustrating. Not to mention, you have Dead Soldier Boy back as an exposition ghost in a... It'd be kind to call it an homage, but I'd say it's more of a rip-off of American Werewolf in London. Special effects in this one, I don't say aren't terrible. It's some obvious CG work, but the effects on the mummy herself are actually pretty good, except for her first appearance, where it's so poorly lit and so poorly cut together that I could barely tell what was going on. So, problems. That said, the movie does do some things right. It does keep a very lively pace, so can't say I was bored during the film. And I was interested in seeing what was going to happen, even if I wanted to shake each and every character at some point. But Sofia Boutella's performance as Amunet really was good. She was very good in this film. It's just kind of was a bit wasted. Now, it does kind of set up Tom Cruise. Okay, it's a little spoilery here, I guess. He ends up more or less becoming part God, maybe new mummy, but if you're going to try setting up a cinematic universe of very familiar characters, very iconic ones, suddenly shoehorning in a new thing is what people are going to be looking for. I'm not opposed to new things. But when you're trying to ride the nostalgia bubble for these monsters, having Tom Cruise slash set slash new now he's the monster thing just seemed excessive. I mean, I guess it's trying to give him an excuse to be like a main character throughout these movies, but that's going to be way more connected than these really should be for a universe. That's just a series of Tom Cruise sequels, not a cinematic universe. We have a bunch of movies that loosely tie in, and then you can do some cool crossovers. The problem is this was all set up for a universe that never happened. Even that, it was a clumsy setup. Now, this is a tricky one to put on my MacGuffin scale. It's not a 1. A lot of the internet will call it that. It ain't. The effects, acting, most of it's fine. Particularly Amanette. I liked her. I liked the mummy. Her movie needs work. I wanted to see more of her, and I got far too little. So, it's rolled out of 5 and 4 right out, so I'm between putting it at a 2 and a 3. Most of this does put it straight into 2 territory. Both how well executed some aspects of the film are, and with the title villain being legitimately interesting. This one is getting a 3 from me, but it's the lowest 3 possible. I was wrestling back and forth between 2 or 3. I don't think it deserves a 2. I think a lot of the hate on this movie is undeserved. It's a frustrating movie, but try to take the expectations aside, which I was able to do since I already knew this was not going to be what I wanted it to be. I was able to look a little bit more objectively at it, and while it is very lacking in certain areas, I don't think it deserves a lot of the hate it got. It's not exactly boring, and certain parts of it, like the core storyline with the mummy herself, is fine. It works. It's some weird choices, like not putting it in Egypt and straying from the main plot of her and her magic dagger to deal with this monster agency for a while is excessive. But I think it's enough to just get it there. That said, I'm probably not going to be watching this one very often. It's worth seeing once for the curiosity, for the novel effect of it. Now, from what I've heard, they haven't completely abandoned the concept of Dark Universe. And while whether it's in there or not, the new Invisible Man, I've heard nothing but good things about, so maybe there's some hope yet. But I imagine that this one's now going to be exiting that continuity, much like Dracula Untold is. I do actually consider that a bit of a shame, just because I would like to see Amanette show up in more movies. I would. It's kind of killed it, though. Alright. All for me on this one.